So Bruce took Chad Reed to Indonesia when he was an amateur. So like I was like, it's pretty cool. Like to say that like this guy was like he picked a very few handful of people and take
Mm.
him. Like I would go over with him. Like older guy, he'd take me to Indonesia racing, and what was really cool, like racing over there and stuff, and working with Konski and doing stuff over there. Um, Konski got me a freestyle show in '07 to ride. Well, it was through Konski. Obviously, I was riding KTM's at the time. He was Honda, but he had a freestyle just with the connections and stuff, being like pretty much a brother to Cade Mosick and stuff like that, Cam Sinclair, Bilko, and all that. So being in that kind of that group of people, and Conti got me over to me and Jackson Strong and Matty McFarren, a couple of us riders. We rode overseas in Singapore, did some freestyle shows, and that was kind of my introduction to the freestyle world in a sense. And that was the same year I won an Australian championship. I lived in Singapore for 6 weeks, and then came back home and won an Australian title. And I think kind of moving into 08 was kind of one of my first freestyle seasons, because at that time mum and dad lost a bit of money and it was hard for us to keep racing. So I had to start picking up. I did some work as a welder and stuff like that when I left school. So over those years leading up, I left school at 15, or just before my 15th birthday. So I was working a part-time job for the first year or 8 months of my first year at 15 years old. Just trying to put into my lifestyle, whether it was going down to Melbourne to train and stuff. So then 2007, I went over to Singapore to race. To do freestyle. I was racing as an amateur that same year as well. So like I was trying to help make money to
Mm.
help offset stuff from mum and dad's pocket. Then '08, like we actually had a Yamaha dealership, but I was racing KTM, but because that was like all I could get on, right? And '08 recession, all that stuff, the drought in Australia, mum and dad had to close the shop down. So I got on '08. I got on with Konski with obviously leading to my pro year as a privateer. I got 4 bikes, so I had 2 freestyle bikes, a practice bike, and a race bike, and I was doing halftime shows at Supercross to pay for my racing because we couldn't afford to go racing. But I wanted to keep racing because I wanted to be a professional racer still. But the only way I could do it was mum and dad were working full time. I was doing halftime shows to make a bit of extra money to put into my program to go down to Melbourne to train and bike stuff and traveling fuel, all that kind of stuff just to live. And then got through that season, like '08. I got on Crusty Demons, doing some Crusty Demon stuff as well. Broke my wrist. I had a Red Bull deal back then, so that was kind of cool, being like a young dude on an energy drink sponsor, which was really cool. A lot of people don't know that. It's kind of crazy when people like talk shit on social media and they'll be like, "Oh, so who's next? Red Bull." I'm like, "Yeah, I've been there, mate. I've had all 3 energy drink companies. Like, what are you talking about? Monster's the best." But so yeah, going through all that kind of stuff and just working through that. '08, broke my wrist. Had kind of a pretty bad outdoor season. Had a good Supercross season. I think I was like top 15 in Supercross as a privateer.
Yeah.
And then I think '09, Konski kind of dropped me a little bit. He helped me out with parts, but bikes I got through the local Honda shop in Denny. And so I had kept a couple of my bikes from the pre-season, bought them from Honda. Had a couple of bikes I got like kind of just like a dealer thing where you'd have them for X amount of months and then you had to give them back, and kind of got some support there from local Honda shop. And then yeah, I mean, that was pretty much '09. Kind of ran just Supercross then, did the halftime shows, got on Crusty Demons, which was really cool. Got to tour New Zealand, which was awesome. Then Red Bull approached me and said, "What do you want to do? You want to be a freestyler or a racer?" And I said, "Well, I want to be a racer. I'm still like, if I got the right opportunity, I could still be a top 5 Supercross rider or a top 10 Supercross rider. Like I could get somewhere with racing, but then I was doing halftime shows to pay for my racing, and they basically said like, pick one or peace out. And so I was like, well, I ain't picking one because I want to do both. And so they left me hanging after that. They gave a ride to Ty. They got a deal with Ty on his Red Bull deal, and then I was back to the chopping board. And super lucky though, because 2010 came around, and a guy called Dove Ribnick, he was working with Travis Pastrana. I remember I was in wake ski and surf in Denny at Luke Moody's shop, and he was one of my first kind of sponsors back in the day. Husk actually was the first one in Kerrang, the local surf shop, and then when I moved to Denny, then Luke Moody from Wake Ski and Surf was like my sponsor, and he got me my first deal with Electric Visual, which was like a cool opportunity, being able to go to school with a new hat and a new pair of sunnies every week, and just getting sponsorships through local surf shop. And it's cool to see, like, that I was in the shop one day and Dove Ribnick from Nitro Circus called me, and he's like, "Hey, you want to come on tour with us, right?" And like a lot of connections, but obviously riding Crusty Demons in 2009 in New Zealand, Cam Sinclair and Blake Williams were like brothers to me. They helped me get my foot in the door with a lot of opportunities with shows, Supercross. It's like doing the halftime shows at Supercross. They were like, they vouched for me, saying, like, he can do it, right? He's good. And then getting into Crusty Demons, doing 2008, I did a show in Wagga and a show in Shepparton. And that kind of led into 2009, being like one of the amateurs with Jackson Strong, and being on tour with that in New Zealand. Trying to do the body varial and broke my wrist in the foam pit at home, and then kind of missed the Oz tour that year. But then it was really cool because then like Cam and then vouched for me with Nitro Circus, got my foot in the door with Nitro Circus. Then that year it was kind of like, peace out racing. Like, I'm going to do Nitro Circus. Like, I'm going to go ride for Travis Pastrana. Like, this is sick. Like, this is like the best opportunity, the best phone call you could ever have, right? Being at like being in the surf shop, a guy that really helped me through my younger days racing and supported me, helped me get sponsors through the shop, and then being there and getting a phone call and being like, dude, I'm going on Nitro Circus. And so got the invite to Nitro Circus. 2010, flew up to Queensland. I was working on the 75-foot backflip, so the Evanses, they're like Jaden Evans, they're out in Kyabram. So they were Evo was like supporting me, built ramps for me. My parents moved there for a little bit, and Evo built ramps for me, like 75-foot comp ramps, like helped me with my freestyle career. Like, Evo's a legend. Like, for somebody just and Brad Kennedy, the Kennedys, like they had a place. They let me set up a ramp there. I had a Red Bull ramp back then as well, so I had two places I could go to and practice. And my parents were just renting a place there, so it was kind of good. I could go and spend time at those places and have people like Jaden would stay home from school and watch me ride, and it was sweet because I did the backflip out there.
Is that where you did the first one?
Done. What's that?
Is that where you did the first one? Was it?
Yeah. So Daniel Salters actually was out at one of their mates' properties to a sand pile. I got the first super kicker one. So I was flipping in the foam pit, but I could never commit to doing 75 feet. I just had a real gnarly back then. I was just young and just kind of struggled with the backflip, and I could do it on pit bikes and BMX bikes at the skate park, but and then I did it onto a sand pile, and then I did it on at Evans's. I did it on off this comp ramp, chalked up at 50 feet, and just could never get my head around doing it off 75, even though it was like 25 feet further. But I just had a real bad struggle with the flip. Like, I really struggled with the backflip, and I've struggled throughout my career with the backflip. It's a pretty gnarly thing to do. And went up to Queensland, and Nitro was like, hey, like, if you flip, like, we're going to send you out to this guy's place. If you get the backflip done, like, it's all good. We just need you to flip for the tour. And so I was up there. Travis was there doing stuff, tandem backflips with people in the foam pit. And I was getting cranked on whips and doing stuff, and I was flipping in the foam pit. And come crunch time, I just couldn't commit. Like, I just didn't do 75-foot flip. And I had it perfect in the foam pit. I've been doing it for 2 years, since 2007, in the foam pit. Like, just so perfect. And actually 3 years, and I couldn't do it. Just couldn't get my head around it, right? And if you put a sand pile there or a 55-foot chalked up ramp, I'd do it, right? But if you put it to 75, for some reason, going from first gear to second gear, just struggled and couldn't get her head around it. Travis was there watching me do whips and turndowns. Mike Pora, the owner, was like, "You're not doing the first stop. Like, you're not on tour with us." And so I sat there and watched the very first Nitro Circus at the Gold Coast. I was at Brisbane Entertainment and watched the first show from the sidelines, got told to leave, go home, got kicked off Nitro Circus. And this is where it gets really crazy, is one of my best mates, Matty Lewis. I don't know if you've ever met Matty, but Matty Lewis, good up-and-coming freestyle, one of my best mates. He actually got my spot on Nitro Circus, and that was the Sydney show, so the next stop. So the first night, back then we were doing 3 nights in a row, right? So I missed the first 3 indoor ones at Brisbane, went to Sydney. Matty Lewis took my spot, hit the ramp in first gear on 250F, under-rotated a flip or whatever, took out a bunch of riders on the landing.
Ooh.
He got sent home, and then Joel Brown took his spot on the second night. Joel Brown crashed. He was riding my bike. Joel crashed. They called me that night and said, "Jared, if you can be in Sydney on Sunday morning, we'll put you back on tour." Dad and I were back in Kyabram area or whatever at that time, or we might have even been in Yarrawonga. We might have just moved to Yarrawonga, and got in the van, pinned it to Sydney, got on for the last show in Sydney as an upright rider, and Trav was like, "Put him on for whips. Like, his turndowns and his whips are sick. Like, put him on." And I'm lucky Trav did that, because then we went to Melbourne for the first stop, and a guy coming home from China X Games, because back then they had like a China X Games, and it was like more of a demo, but it was an X Games event. And the guy came through Melbourne on the way back to the US, and was like, Trav was like, "Watch this guy for X Games. Like, you need to put him on." And actually, we were in Yarrawonga, because I remember my phone call. We were in Yarrawonga. Dad was managing a dairy farm there for this Chinese company, and we went. I was on tour finished. I did the whole rest of the tour in 2010, and then Dad got a phone. I got a phone call, and it was like, Travis was like, "Hey, keep an eye on your emails or your phone. In the next couple of weeks, something really cool is going to happen." And just kept an eye on it. And finally, I think I got a phone call, and it was like, "Yo, you're on X Games. You're invited to X Games," and that was July. The first X Games was my birthday, my 19th birthday. I won a silver medal at X Games Best Whip,